time machines. Some say it's theoretically possible, but so far in 2026, it's not possible. But in the computer world, Apple already figured it out. In 2007, Apple gave its users a very simple way of backing up and recovering data, and I really like it. In today's video, we will talk about data backups before Time Machine's introduction in 2007, its changes over the last almost 20 years, and where it stands today. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our members for making this content possible and supporting the channel. Back in the battery tester video, which I needed a Time Machine for since that piece of tech was really old, I made the offhand remark about Time Machine. Well, here we are. I'm making videos about offhand jokes in videos. But I bring this up not to have some of you watch that video, but I want to talk about backing up data for Time Machine. Now, I usually don't back up data, and I probably should. But my version of backing up files was I take a select few of important or large project files and put them on a separate drive in case I need them later. Now, on very rare instances, I would back up data onto other physical disks. I only ever did this when installing Linux on my Windows PC, and it was just as simple as cloning a drive and then throwing that drive into a box with some masking tape with the OS and date written on it. But that's really as far as the basic idea of data backups go. Way back in the day, I did put some old home movies on disk in case I lost the files, but that's really about it. So there we go. That's the old way of backing up files. Important singular folders and maybe the whole OS in case of moving systems or switching operating systems. That's the main gist of it. I feel like that's how most people really treat backups. There's no real reason to keep everything, and a part of this is the normalcy bias since we don't have the need or we don't feel the need to constantly back up data since things usually don't go wrong. Some of the tech before Time Machine, as we mentioned, are CDs, DVDs, solid-state drives, hard drive disks, and some software that was used for business use, and they often required an IT background to understand, like retrospect and tape backups. But normal people were usually stuck with dragging files from the system folders to a USB, CD, or an external drive. Time Machine changed this by taking care of all the difficult stuff and letting users ignore it. Apple's whole philosophy of making everything so simple that an idiot couldn't mess it up was in full blast here. Want to know how simple it is to set up Time Machine?
Just connect an external hard drive to your Mac with a USB or FireWire cable. Time Machine detects the drive and will ask you if you'd like to use it as your backup disk. Click Use as Backup Disk, and Time Machine will start an initial backup of everything on your Mac.
The arrival of Time Machine to the user base was also released pretty well. Apple, before the iPod, didn't have the largest user base, and most of the user base were creative types or enthusiasts. In other words, they knew how to use the computer, and they knew how to back things up. After the iPod, Apple's user base was like everyone from every walk of life, and this was taken to the extreme after the iPhone picked up and became mainstream. With these millions of new users who were not creatives or enthusiasts or generally knew how to use a computer, Apple had to release a way to easily back up files, or risk millions of data loss complaints from new users who just accidentally deleted their entire desktop. But what did Steve Jobs have to say about this back in 2007?
Is, of course, Time Machine. And as we talked about before, we're using our computers not just to store our work documents, but really our digital lives. We've got things on our computers now that used to be in our precious shoeboxes, would never get lost. But if you lose these things now, if you just lose one precious photograph, you're going to be really bummed. Imagine if you lost your whole library of photographs. We've got very precious stuff on our computers, and yet almost no one backs up their computer automatically. Almost all of us do not. And so we are just walking time bombs waiting to happen in terms of having something go wrong and misplacing some information, mistakenly deleting it, or worse. And this is what Time Machine is all about. We'd like to solve these problems in such a simple way that everyone actually uses it. So, Time Machine lets you set up backup with just one click. You click it on, it does everything, it automatically backs up everything. You don't have to tell it what you want backed up or not, it just backs up everything. And it'll back it up to a local hard drive or a network server, and it'll even back it up wirelessly. And so you can hang a hard drive off of your Mac if you want to, or you can go get an Airport Extreme base station and plug a drive into it and do it wirelessly. And as a matter of fact, all the Macs in your house can share one base station and a drive if you get a bigger drive to back up all the Macs in your house wirelessly on one drive, all completely automatically. So that handles the backup. What happens if something goes wrong and you need to go find a file? Well, Time Machine now lets you search back in time for lost files using Spotlight Search. Back in time. And you can preview files you find and make sure they're the right ones with Quick Look. And if they are, you can restore them with one click, and you can even restore your entire Mac. And we've got this great user interface that lets you go back in time and find things now, even with Quick Look. And so let me show that to you.
Now, instead of Steve Jobs demoing this, I'm going to demo it for you guys, since this is my video after all. Time Machine works pretty simply. Let's just open up the app here, and let's say I really need a few files from a video I did about my first student film. Well, I know I took some screenshots, so the best place to look would be on my desktop. Now, if I remember correctly, I worked on this project right around Christmas. So let's go back to the 26th of December and see if my file is still there. And there it is. Now that I have the file I need, I'm all good to go. This doesn't just stop at the desktop files. Let's say you deleted your favorite Minecraft texture pack. Well, that's gotta suck, but let's get it back. Same deal as before. We don't even need to find the Minecraft folder in the archaic macOS file structure, since whatever Finder window you have open in Time Machine, it'll automatically go to that folder. This is very easy, and it's a very simple way to restore files. Time Machine itself highlights something that I think is very interesting. I've often heard about when time travel is discovered and put into practice, time would cease to exist, since it's essentially infinite now. I'd hate to make this video deeply philosophical, so I'll leave you all to think about it and debate about it down below. As I was saying, knowing that Time Machine is backing up my files, I don't really care what I delete or save on my desktop, since I at least know that there is one backup of it somewhere on the Time Machine. I could delete everything on my desktop right now, or everything in my documents or even downloads, and I could go farther, but I won't have to worry since Time Machine has already backed this up. Now, I do not recommend deleting random stuff just because it's backed up, but the fact that I have extra protection for my data is a good thing and a very nice reassurance. As for changes to the Time Machine, there isn't much. Slot Machine was removed with Squidward back in 2013, but there hasn't been many real changes. Some tech like the Timecastle backups were no longer supported, and Apple changed some of the file encryption to save data, so it could be more compact and smaller. Now I need a Time Machine to go rewatch Midlife Crustacean. Nick sure erased that episode from everyone's memory. Time to go on a Time Machine raid.
I guess you're gonna miss the...
Redacted.
The what?
So where does Time Machine stand today? Well, I don't see any big changes to it. It's pretty good as it is, and has remained virtually unchanged except for the UI facelifts every few years. I think Time Machine is a pretty good tool for everyone, and I encourage everyone to use it. Many new Mac users may not even know it's around and never thought of using it. And you probably should, in case you delete some really important file that you really need. What's really great about it, in my opinion, would be those working with Adobe files, and these files are being stored on the local disk. Since Time Machine updates the files that have changed, if you need to open something in Adobe but you don't have any backup saves, well, the Time Machine, you can restore the file from 6 to 8 hours ago, for example, and work from there. The Time Machine doesn't have many uses, but when you do need it, you're really thankful it's there. I haven't had to use it yet, but I think one day I will. Time Machine is one of those pieces of software from the Mac that just kind of stuck around, unlike Front Row, Dashboard, CoverFlow, and many more things I'm going to talk about in my other series, Killed by Apple. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you liked it, then consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like under this video. It tells me I'm doing a good job, and it lets YouTube know I'm doing a good job at making these. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.